He hasn't pulled off of gas yet, but he's just gonna. I think he's gonna hit with like a small force of roaches. Or no,
At
he's
least with
taking.
this,
What is he doing?
just making a couple right here. Well, they will go by that. I'd like to see them maybe take out that pylon. Honestly, wouldn't be too hard. Take a fourth base. That would be really intense for JimRising. Normally, what you will see with Zergs, at least kind of in these positions, they can get that third base, whatever they can secure their natural, and then they're going to be on fourth bases and mining off the gold, but eventually just kind of sacrifice it, pull out the drones, and not even worry about defending it because it does pay off for itself relatively quickly. Now that there's the natural base, there's the roaches out, and Zeal from this, getting Robo, I mean, just playing this very, very standard. His cannon rush worked. It's pretty much the best situation that Zeal could have wanted to, other than that natural base just come 100% finishing and then being, like, killing everything there with drones.
Yeah, the third base from JimRising is completed. Hasn't been scouted yet by Zeal. That probe just got cleaned up. Didn't get a chance to scout that. And behind this, Zeal's making a robo and a lot of sentries. So let's see if he is going to go for that famous Immortal Sentry Island.
Could be really good versus that gold base. Like I was saying, normally the gold base can pay off itself pretty quickly, but if you're getting Burrow there, it could actually be at jeopardy and literally a little scary. JimRising will be moving in with a couple links into the natural base of Zeal, but will pull back from that. There's 3 sentries. Everything Zeal needs is there. +1, as you mentioned, Kaboosh. And this is looking like it's just going to be a nice Immortal Sentry all-in. And that'll do really well versus gold base.
JimRising is getting Burrow, though, which I'm not sure how effective that will be. I think... Did Zeal make an Observer? He has not yet. So if he goes without an Observer, Burrowed Roaches can be really good against any sort of 2-base all-in from Protoss.
Not only can they be really good, but with them, just with being able to burrow, even if your opponent has Robo, it's generally the situation where you only need to buy yourself 10 to 15 seconds for your Hydras to reinforce something like that. Or, as you can see down at this gold base, this one Phoenix is, you know what, no roaches are there. It looks kind of fishy. It's interesting, maybe convincing Zeal that he's out on the map, but there's so many things you can do with Burrow, even if your opponent does have an Observer. I'm fine with him getting it. It was at a little bit of a scary position, but we'll see how that goes down. There's a lot of lings out of the map for JimRising and his roaches. Easily, he could shut down this army, and possibly Zeal would have to teleport back home.
Yeah, these roaches in a good position to try to deny this pylon. Zeal pulls his probe back,
Ooh.
and instant Burrow.
Very nice burrow. Sadly, no Tongue Claws, but here's the surround with wings on the right-hand side. The force fields are going to be fantastic, actually. Really good getting a lot of the army out, but still, there's so many roaches here, and with the lings, they are flooding through the cracks. Time Warp also was down, desperately trying to micro. Zeal is with his Immortal, but just the entire army is crushed right here. A beautiful surround with these lings and roaches, and I mean, you can keep microing forever, but I think JimRising actually is going to push this 100%, and he's just, I'm going to burr off the back of it. Like, guess what? Roaches will heal. Lings are kind of interesting right there, but still, he's going to be able to attack off the back of this, and Zeal's taken no third and did almost 0 damage with that. Like, maybe, I don't even think it killed a roach, to be honest.
That was a dream engagement there for JimRising. If you look at the units lost tab, 2,000 more resources lost for Zeal. That's never the position you want to be in as the Protoss player. Especially when the Zerg player has a gold base.
Definitely, that's not where you want to be in as the Protoss player, but Zeal's trying to get himself out of there. See this one Warp Prism looking for an angle. The entire army of JimRising is pulling back, and like you were mentioning before we got in, Kaboosh, that JimRising, he isn't a very aggressive player, while Zeal, I don't want to say if he's also aggressive, but he did seem equally aggressive with that, and generally I feel like the Zerg player will win out because you can just push out so many more units than your opponent if you're both going that super, super heavy, just crashing against each other's style, which Zeal is going to try to make it happen again. This time a lot more Zealots, more DPS, but, I mean, the reason he survived last time was the force fields. Okay, there's the Stalkers for the range, and we'll see. There's not that many roaches here. This could be a dangerous situation for JimRising.
Yeah, this is Zeal has a really small window to hit here where he has a formidable army, because once these Hydras pop and reinforce the Roach army, Zeal's army is just going to melt. Stalkers and Immortals do not do very well against Hydras.
They don't do that well, but we have seen some really cool stuff with Blink plays recently, kind of that Baguette style, but there's not quite enough Hydras to really make much happen right now. Army supply-wise, it is 71 to 60. Not too much different, but the Protoss army is looking really potent here, especially with sentries. Time Warp does go down, slowing down some Roaches, won't get any kills, but does kind of defend this right-hand side of the Protoss army, or kind of above side, whatever northern position. Warp Prism will warp in a lot of Zealots, and Zeal's looking like he's got a solid position here, but the Ship Core, though, is getting focused down. Not enough energy to teleport back or anything, and barely. Zeal's going to push this back. Hydra's got a lot of DPS, but they are very squishy against the Protoss Zealot Immortal combo.
Yeah, big fight here happening though. Looks like JimRising will push it back. And this gold base is like, he's got the 3 bases back at home compared to Zeal, who's going to be stuck on 2 bases for quite some time. So even if this gold base does go down, it's not the end of the world here for JimRising. But he's just getting such a big Hydra count.
And it's just crushing this again and again. Zeal tried to kind of push in, do a warp and push in, do a warp, and it's just not quite working. JimRising has gotten to the composition he wants. It's dangerous. It's a scary composition. He needs the micro to make it stay alive, but it is working. Even if he did lose this gold base, as you mentioned, Kaboosh, and as I kind of talked about earlier on, often to the Zergs, it's so easy to pay off that gold base, especially if it's only the hatch. Sadly, JimRising does have 2 extractors and Evo Chamber, but even with that, it's so easy to pay off that you can kind of sacrifice it. Thankfully, though, for JimRising, he doesn't need to sacrifice it, and desperately, Zeal needs to buy himself from time. He's still on 2 bases, and this is getting pretty darn all in from him.
Yeah, the longer this game goes without him taking the 3rd base, like he's still got a little bit of minerals, but like very quickly now we're going to see the patches in the main base dry up. And he's just on a pretty big timer here, or short timer rather.
Exactly, he is on a very short timer, and I mean, he can make stuff happen, but twice he's been 100% rebuked by JimRising. Now, JimRising playing very safely. He's waiting for his Hydra upgrades to come in. Currently, he is getting that Hydra speed, and having a little bit of an issue of retreating. Oh, Zeal leaves one of those Hydras, barely alive, 6 health left, but still JimRising playing quite well. He's being careful and amassing a beautiful Roach Hydra composition off the back of this. He is also not up by that many, only a couple workers, but still 4 base. That's a lot of production you can get as Zerg.
Yeah, the worker lead is nice. He's up by 8 now, but 11 of those drones are on the gold base, so they count for a lot more than the oversaturated workers. I guess he's not oversaturated anymore.
But there's big fight going down. Beautiful force fields actually capture a decent amount of Hydras, and JimRising has been focusing on the upgrades, whatever, but has not quite been able to get out enough Roaches to make these Hydras viable versus this force. And Zeal, as we said, he is 100% all in here. Doesn't care. He's going to keep warping in units and trying to make this happen. And JimRising, I don't think, thought he was going to attack again. Off the back of this, JimRising does see like no third base from Zeal. He's got the Overlord there, and he's got to realize he's all in. All he needs to do is hold this base, and he's pretty much got the game.
Yeah, really nice force fields repeatedly out of Zeal, but the sentry energy is getting really low. He's probably got enough energy for one more engagement, but if JimRising can bait those out, it's going to be in a really good spot.
That will be phenomenal if JimRising can bait it out. As you see, he kind of did on the right-hand side, and even though I think Zeal, he will finally pick up this base, as I said, and as we talked about, it's not that big of a base right here. For now, though, JimRising is defending. He's on 3 base. He still has to defend this, but the force fields, they're starting to get not so good, and honestly, right now, Zeal, I mean, he's only got 1 or 2 left.
Yeah, these last set of force fields bought him a lot of time, but JimRising's happy to sit back and just make some more Hydras.
Exactly, with his Hydra force, he just has to hit that critical number and he'll just start slaughtering whatever Zeal has. And just a note off the back of this, Zeal, I mean, he does have a decent amount in the bank, but he's got no Twilight Council. He doesn't have what he needs. Oh, actually, this Mortal will be beautifully sniped right there. But he doesn't have Blink, which is normally what you see with his composition is Protoss, and why it's so devastating versus those kind of squishy Hydras. Now, though, Zeal, he's making progress, but then, yet again, JimRising is in such a phenomenal position economically and production-wise.
Yeah, we see JimRising taking just slightly better trades. Like the Hydras will come in, some force fields go down, and all the Zealots will die. JimRising will lose a few Hydras, pull back.
By the way, these Hydras are at +1 to the similar +1 of Zeal, but now another fight going down, and each time, I feel like Zeal just edges out slightly ahead, and really, I think JimRising just needs to pull back and wait a couple seconds here and not really engage once the force fields go down, but I mean, maybe he thinks he does not want to wait for any more force field energy, and looks like he's going to be able to take this guy. He's pushing forward. He's got a lot of hydras, but the force fields, again, are quite good, making it only through that 3 or 4 hydras can shoot at a time, and Zeal is barely just kind of pushing on through this. All the roaches are gone on this main force of JimRising. It is down to actually only, like, what has got here? 13 hydras? Zeal's actually making this look good.
Yeah, Zeal's... This is a really strong push from Zeal, but if we notice, his main base is just about mined out. There's about 50 minerals left in there. But if he can end the game here, that won't matter.
Zeal will only be on 1 base, but now all the drones of JimRising have been pulled, and there's no blink, so these stalkers do have to kite away from them, allowing the hydras to do a little bit more damage to these drones, acting as mass zergling in some other situations, shutting down the opponent's army. And as you said, the main base of Zeal is being mined out. There it is, mined out now, and JimRising on 3 base, down 19 workers, yes, but on 3 base to the only potentially 1 of Zeal, and Zeal has to hightail it out of there. JimRising just needed to, as I was saying, needed to kind of get a little bit stronger force, and he chose, you know, we can pull drones, this is worth it, cleans up the last of the army, and Zeal can defend with sentries, but I don't know really realistically how long. He's got to kill this pylon along with it.
Yeah, this was really well fought by Zeal given the position he was in after his first attack got shut down. But he's just kind of dead here. He doesn't have, if you look at the income, he's up workers, but he has half the income of JimRising just because he doesn't have any minerals to mine. And with the probes being pulled, and Zealot Sentry trying to engage pure Hydra, this is not looking too good.
It just doesn't quite work there. Barely Zeal, yes, he is defending, but I mean, off the back of this, JimRising doing so well. I think JimRising's going to take it, guys, here. Doing it at here. Oh, he's got to be really careful. The Hydras are low on health, but there's nothing left for Zeal, guys. Think JimRising take. There's the GG. JimRising takes game 1 for Endurance Esports, and to point out right there, even though it was a fantastic push from Zeal, JimRising, though, he held really, really well. I mean, the cannon rush right off the bat, you know, we'll go at the gold, whatever, and even though he lost that gold base and he was very, very careful, he still really played that game out well.
Yeah, that was definitely a lot closer than I thought it would be. Just
I agree. Zeal pushed really, really well, and the force fields, he had very good force fields and he wasn't overusing them like you see some players in like the very first engagement where he just kind of threw a ton down and hoped they work. He just 1 or 2 here and there, and that was kind of forced out even by himself because of the fact that he used all his force fields. He has to be very careful about how he places them, and in turn forced himself to place them really well.
Yeah, it's really cool to see really good Protoss players showcase some amazing micro. I don't know, maybe it's because you're Diamond, right?
I'm around Diamond in each of the races, yes.
Yeah. So I don't know, my Diamond level games, either when I'm playing Protoss or playing against Protoss, is they just like vomit force fields all over the map. Just like, all right,